Hi, you're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host Ashley Case, we'll be sitting down with our industry leaders to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Neil Evans. Neil grew up in Builth Wells, a small town in rural Wales, where his parents still live. Neil went to college at the University of Hull in Yorkshire, studying environmental management, where he met his future wife, who came as an American exchange student during his time at Hull. Over the next few years, he spent time in both countries until he got married in 1996, where he moved to Fairfax County, Washington, D.C., where he still lives. Neil got his first professional job in the late 1990s as an environmental policy analyst working on contracts supporting the Department of Energy. He got a little bit bored and queried about proposals, but over the last 20 years, Neil has worked at half a dozen or so companies, different sizes and different offerings, and have done hundreds of proposals. The majority of his time has been spent at smaller companies where he's been part of smaller proposal departments, in some cases just being the only proposal professional. The last 3 years plus years of his career have been at ASRC Federal and Alaskan Native Corporation, leading all of ASRC's federal defense and intelligence proposals. Neil is also APMP Practitioner Certified. Welcome, Neil, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Bhaskar. Great to be here.
Neil, let's go back to the very beginning. Where were you born? And let's talk about your early years in Wales.
So yeah, I was actually born in Hereford, which is just over the border from Wales in England. And I grew up in a small town called Builth Wells, which is a farming community in Powys. So it's about, it's just a small town, about 2,000 people. My parents owned a hardware store there, and so my dad been doing that since he was 15 years old. He took the business over from his dad, so they've just recently retired in the last couple of years from doing that. So my dad did that for about 60 years. So I grew up there. We lived in the apartment above the shop, and so yeah, it was a small town upbringing. Great, loved it. Lived there till my teens and till I went to university.
Got it, Neil. Can you speak Welsh?
I can read more than I can speak. So back then, kids would have to take Welsh in school through about halfway through high school.
Right.
Now, I think they're doing a much better job with the language now than when I was a kid. So I think it's becoming more of a growing language, actually, which is cool.
That's it. Do you want to say anything in Welsh? Say, I'm happy.
So I could say croeso, which is welcome. Yeah. So other than that, so the Welsh name for the town I grew up in is called Builth Wells, but the Welsh name is Llanfair y Mearth.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's been a while since I've had to speak any Welsh.
Totally. I think I'll leave it to the listeners to decode that one word where Neil just talked about how to say the Welsh name for Builth Wells. So we'll just leave it there.
Yep.
So yes, so fast forward, you just moved from there into University of Hull, where you met your wife. Talk us through your education there, and then why the choice environmental management, Neil?
That really interested me, the environment and kind of just renewable energy, that kind of thing, when I was a teenager, and they had a good program at University of Hull. So I went there, and it's a good program, and Hull's a great place to be an undergrad. It's a working class city. It's pretty inexpensive to live there. So you can imagine your money goes a little bit further, So no, it was a good time. Met some great people there. So my wife was there as a post-grad. She was doing a post-grad certificate there. I met her at the start of the second year that I was there as an undergrad. So we dated for like a year. She came back to the States, finished my undergrad, and we spent, a couple of years going back and forth, back and forth. And then I decided, well, it would be good to get a master's, career-wise, that would be a good thing to do. So I went back to Hull, did my environmental policy management master's degree, came back, did the thesis, dissertation, graduated from there. And since then, I've been in the States full time. So that was back in, 93, 94, when we decided, yeah, it's going to be America where we live. And, you start going through all the immigration stuff to be able to live and work in the U.S. And part of that, we were going to get married eventually, but we decided it would make things easier. So we got married. We're both in our mid-20s. So yeah, it's been great. So been in the U.S. ever since then.
Wow, coming from a small town in Wales, meeting your wife in Hull, and going all the way to Fairfax, Washington. What a
it's
journey.
funny because I have one sibling, and she's lived in Qatar and Mexico and Spain. So yeah, we've been all over the place. Yeah.
A multicultural, multilinguistic family.
Right.
That's nice. Yeah, I think as you rightly mentioned, while you were there in your early 1990s, when you were finishing up your environmental management, you were working for Department of Energy. Talk us through your very first role, Neil, and Department of Energy, being a policy person over there, and then looking into proposals, and then let's gradually get into all the experiences that you've got until your current role with ASRC Federal.
Sure. I mean, so that was my first professional job at a company called McNeil Technologies, and I was hired on to help. They had some contracts with the Department of Energy. It was the energy, like renewable energy program. I forget what the official title was now, but it was basically to encourage and help federal agencies make their buildings and facilities more energy efficient. So we produced policy statements. We, presentations. Those folks would kind of go around the country talking to their facility managers and those types of folks, and we would help produce materials for them. And we'd also do kind of some speech writing as well. So I was there for about 2.5, 3 years. And, just kind of, I find it a little boring, working on the same stuff every day, same customer. And so I was, one of my colleagues was doing proposals, and I asked my boss, what's that all about? Because I didn't really know what it was. He said, well, if you're interested, we could use help doing, writing resumes and past performances, those kinds of things. So I started doing that and did that for about 6 months. And my colleague, Deborah, she had moved on, and she was at another company, and they were looking to hire some junior proposal manager types. And she called me and it's like, hey, would you be interested in doing that full time? And I said yes. And 25 years later, here I am still doing proposals. So that, yeah, I mean, I don't think back then anybody started out and purposefully pursued proposals as a profession. I mean, I certainly don't. I didn't. I fell into it. you know, I kind of discovered it, got into it, enjoyed it, and luckily found an opening at a different place where I could, you know, start doing it full time. So, yeah. So I was at a smaller company doing mostly state kind of telecommunications proposals for a couple of years after that. And then went and worked at a company called Antion for 4 years, and they were bought by GDIT about 3.5, 4 years after I got there. And I was one of a handful of folks who concentrated. We did only task order proposals, so the company had, you know, proposal shops for each of their large operating groups, the business lines, and then there was a task order proposal shop kind of that supported the whole company, the whole enterprise, and I was in there. So that was kind of, you know, finding out how to do this by far. I mean, we were doing about 300 task order proposals a year. You know, so the summertime, July, August, September was always the busiest time of year, and we were, you know, doing dozens of proposals a month. So that was pretty intense. So that was back in the early 2000s. Did that for a few years, and then went to another company called Constella, who were mostly in the health side of things, health IT, health support. They supported CDC, NIH, agencies like that. I worked there for a while, and then that company got bought by SRA International. So we got, you know, absorbed into that organization. Worked there for about 6 months post-acquisition, and just, it was at that point I was like, you know, I'm not really enjoying it here. It was very much, you know, you better show up and be here for 11 or 12 hours a day, every day in person. And there was a lot of just unhappy people, I would say, you know, especially the program people that we would bring in. They were having to work proposals as well as, you know, running the programs, and it wasn't a fun atmosphere. And I, you know, kind of took a step back and said, well, you know, I think I've been at this long enough now where I think I have an idea of how I'd like to do proposals if I, you know, could choose how to do things. So I think I'm at a point now where I better go see if that's right. So I started, you know, looking around purposefully for a position at a smaller company where they were looking for somebody to come in and kind of to run things. And so those are the kind of places where I looked for, and ended up at a company called OST Global. And, you know, so that was the start of probably 10 dozen years of working at smaller companies where I was either the entire proposal department myself, or I had, you know, one or two other people working with or for me. So that I was like, yeah, it's time to see if the way I like to do things is actually the way that things work well. So.
Perfect, Neil. I think thank you for sharing the overview, Neil. I think 20 years of career in like 2 minutes is always hard, but you did really well. Again, Neil, I think, you know, many people are comfortable working with large corporates where you're surrounded by, you know, 10 other proposal managers with you know, proposal leaders, capture managers, etc. But you tend to work for companies, in some cases also working on your own. Talk us through, you know, the pros and cons of being a one person doing end-to-end, and also working in small companies, based on your experience, and why do you like it?
I mean, I think that I got to, you know, build a lot of skills pretty quickly, because you were, you know, in larger organizations, you know, there's proposal managers, proposal coordinators, production people, editors, capture people, you know, BD, sales, all of these different roles. And when you're working for a small organization, you tend to have to take on many or all of those roles yourself. So, you know, you quickly get to learn how to do a lot of different things in the kind of the BD proposal world, which I liked, you know. So So yeah, I mean, the flip side of that obviously is you pretty much never get a day off, right? Because you're the single point of failure for the whole, new business and recompete operation for the company. So it does. There's definitely, a burnout issue there potentially. So, so you do have to be mindful of that. But I was lucky. For the most part, the companies I've worked for over the last 15 years, it's great people. And I think that's what I kind of learned is you can talk about all the different processes and tools and all those good things that kind of make up how you kind of do your job as a proposals person. But it really comes down to, the quality of the people around you as to whether you're going to be successful or not and be happy while you're doing it.
That's a great advice, Neil. Again, you know what? Some people thrive on those environments. Some people struggle on those environments. But as you rightly said, you just need to know what works for you and then pick and choose companies and environments that works for you. And looks like, you kind of thrive in those environments. Talk us about your current role with ASRC and what type of projects that you do.
Yeah, so I came on board ASRC Federal about the fall of 2018, as a proposal manager. So like I said, I've been, in smaller places for a while, and, I was looking for something where I could, get some time off now and again. So I was happy to apply and get a position at ASRC Federal. We're about 8,000 person company. It's an Alaskan Native Corporation. And we go after a wide range of jobs. So I came on board and I was one of about half a dozen or so proposal managers. And, across the organization, there's probably a couple dozen capture managers. So it was a bigger operation that I've been in for probably 12 or so years. Again, I've really liked it since I came on board. And again, it all goes back to the people that you work with. And January of last year, so January of 2021, I got a new position in the company. So the company did an internal reorg, so it became more customer facing. So there was 3 operating groups created. There was a space operating group. We have a lot of NASA and NOAA work at the company. And then there was a civilian and health operating group and a defense and intel operating group. So I became the proposal director for the defense and intel operating group. So basically I'm responsible for all of the proposals coming through that operating group. So I manage some of them, and then for the ones that I'm not managing, I'm working with we have a shared services proposals operation, which is where I used to be a proposal manager. So I work with those folks to resource all the other proposals that I'm not managing, and I'm usually working in a kind of a review role on those, making sure that they're going along well. So I'm, grabbing the internal people and also finding consultants where we need them. So I've been doing that for about 18 months now.
Got it. That's interesting. All the very best with all the projects that you work on, Neil. So at what point in your career did you come across APMP as an industry body?
So actually a pretty long time ago. So it was when I was at Antion. So it was the early 2000s. So I had my manager at the time was a lady called Jillian Dion. So I know that I think you know her, Basker. And she was involved in APMP way back when. So it was, back before it really became, it's much more of a professional association now. It was, I'd say back then, it was being run by the people who, were the proposal people themselves were running the association. So yeah, I've been aware of and been involved with APMP for, 20 years or so at this point, I guess.
Wow, yes. I did meet Jillian 2 weeks ago, and when she was at the BPC Dallas, Neil. That was good. And yeah, I mean, So yeah, joining the membership is one, but you also get yourself certified with Foundation Practitioner. Talk your certification journey as well.
So yeah, I mean, it's been a while, right? So I'd say I was more involved in APMP back. I mean, I haven't been that much involved in the last 4 or 5 years, but I did get my foundation a long time ago, and did the practitioner. A few years later, that was around 2011, I think I did the practitioner. So I know it's changed since then. It was much more of a kind of a self-assessment deal when I did it. So actually at this point, so I haven't been involved in the APMP much in the last few years. I mean, back then I've actually presented at a couple conferences at the national and in the local metro, DC Metro chapter.
Right.
But it's been a while. So, just kind of probably should re-engage some, but yeah.
Totally, Neil. I think we all go through cycles in life, and
Right.
at some point, things changes, and we just do what we do. But I'm glad that you were aware of APMP from early 2000s. I only came to know that in 2015, 16.
Probably right around the time where I've, kind of stepped back a little. I think, from what I've seen, it's probably time to get re-engaged a little. I think it stepped back when you start kind of seeing the same people doing the same presentations.
Totally.
A few years in a row, and it's like, am I really getting a whole lot out of this?
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, but I think it's, from what I've seen over the last year or so, even with coming out of the pandemic, people are excited to get back together, right?
And that was heartwarming. I think you raised a very important point. Yeah, sometimes you're right. You always see the same people talking the same topics. But this year was quite interesting because you have lots of young professionals, coming up. I think 2/3 of the talks were done by, pretty much young professionals or first-time speakers, which is quite interesting. I mean, like they approached it in their own way, but it was much more interesting than, you're right, traditional consulting type companies or individuals who come and talk the same topic for years and years. So that's good. I think you're right. I think it's also second option is people haven't met people in a long time. I just went and met few people, took some photos and shared it with people. And yeah, it's all nice. So thank you for sharing that. Neil, I think over the years, you might have done hundreds of proposals doing for different companies. Any memorable proposals comes to your mind for good and bad reasons?
Well, I mean, so a recent one that I really enjoyed, and so it's the biggest proposal that I've ever won as well. So it's a $450 million job to provide base operations support for the United States Air Force Base at Vance, which is in Oklahoma. So that's one of the lines of business that we're really good at. ASRC Federal is kind of base support for Air Force and Army, and we have DHS as well. So anyway, so I got assigned to that, and as a recompete effort, I got assigned to it back in 2019 and worked it for, a good 10 months or so before the RFP came out. Went out to Oklahoma a couple times to meet with the program people, and it's just been a great experience, because ever since then, I've had a great relationship with the program manager out there and his folks, who do a fantastic job, and we use those guys as technical SMEs and estimators on all of our other base operation support proposals since then. So it's been that was the start of an ongoing professional relationship with a bunch of really good people. So I mean, that it was really gratifying that we won that. I mean, it's a competitive environment. Winning recompetes there's a lot of pressure there, especially something that big, and especially something it's a core past performance for us. So that was something that we had to win that, and we did. So that was a big deal. So I'd say that's the highlight of the last few years for me, and just keeps on kind of keeping on, because I get to keep working with those guys on a daily basis, right? Because they're still around doing a great job.
Totally.
So that's my most enjoyable experience professionally, I'd say, over the last 5 or so years.
That's nice. Thanks for sharing. And looks like it's a memorable win for you. That's Neil, I think before we get into what we call rapid random fire question round, or in honor of Howard Nutt, we call it the Nutters round. Tell us 3 things not many people know about you.
All right. So, and I think some people do know this, but I'm a big Washington Capitals fan. So I don't know if you know anything about ice hockey or the NHL or, I didn't growing up in Wales, but ever since moving over here, my son got taken to a game when he was about 11 or 12 years old, came back and was like, this is fantastic, had such a great time. So we started going as a family and just got fully into it. And that's been great. We go to try and get to a few games every season, and it's just so much fun. And it's funny, especially watching my wife become a sports fan for the first time in her life. She was never a big sports person, but she's been sucked into it as well. So yeah, we love that. I was thinking about some other thing, one other thing that not many people know. I don't know if you've ever heard of a movie called Deep Impact. It's like kind of a disaster movie from the late 90s. So my wife and I are both extras in that movie. So you can actually see us driving our car supposedly away from the comet that's about to hit the Earth. So that was kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's that. And then, I don't know, I mean, it's funny because went back and talking about when I met my wife at University of Hull. So I was in it was like the clubs and societies night where, new students would kind of go around and go, oh, that's cool. That maybe I'll join that and make some new friends. And so it was me and my friends, we were running something called the Punk and Hardcore Society. So we were big, that's the kind of music we were into. We would go see lots of different bands, and my wife paid the pound to become a member, and that's how we met. So yeah, so that's kind of interesting, but I don't know how people know that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, what 3 different types of things? I mean, definitely there will be few people who'll be like, hey, I know Neil, but I didn't know this about it. That's good. Outside this, any hobbies and interests, Neil?
I mean, we're just busy with the kids. Both my kids, who are both teenagers, my son and daughter, they're both serious dancers. So we spend a lot of time going to different dance events and taking them back and forth to all of their dance classes. And they're both on the dance team at high school. So there's lots of dance going on all the time, all year long. So we spend a lot of time with that, which is lots of fun, watching the kids be creative and confident and up on stage, in front of hundreds of people. And other than that, just hanging with the family, and we have 3 dogs, and so it's a pretty crazy, busy household, I would say, all the time.
That's it. I think we all go through certain aspects of life where you just kind of prioritize the family members rather than what you want to do. Looks like you are in that phase now. But I'm glad that kids are enjoying dogs, and you are balancing your life, and also you got some good success. It's continue. Wish you all the blessings, Neil. I think everything will fall in place for you, as it's been for the rest of the past years for you. Let's officially enter the Nutters round. There is no right or wrong answer. Random questions here and there. Fast, whatever comes in your mind. Yeah?
Yep.
Perfect. If you could pick a new first name, what would it be and why?
It's funny. Here's a name that I wouldn't pick. So we were watching the hockey last night, and one of the goalies is called Igor Shesterkin, and my wife was like, "Man, imagine if we'd named our son Igor." So I don't think I'd want that name, but yeah, that just kind of stuck out from last night.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. If you win $1 billion, what will you buy first?
Man, it would be nice to get away on a really, really long and nice vacation. After being stuck remote working for the last couple years and not being able to get away, that would be good.
100%. I think, yeah, if there is a seat in your place, I will happily join you.
Yeah, please. More the merrier.
What kind of secret society would you like to start?
Wow, a secret society. That's I think you might have stumped me on that one. Secret society. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I think, coming from Wales, living in US, I'm sure there should be some kind of
Oh,
corporate.
that's true. Yeah, find the few other Welsh people over here. Maybe we could get together. Yeah,
Secret
that would be good. Yeah.
If you could become invisible for a day, what would you do?
I think, it'd be nice to see what my kids get up to during the day because, they come home from school and you ask them how your day was, and you always get, well, fine, good. There's not a lot of detail you get out of teenagers, so become
Totally.
interested to see what they're like in their natural environment, with their friends and without any adults around.
Yes, that's a good one. I think my kids are getting to that age now. They are 9 and 10. So I'm getting to that zone now where you really need to patiently ask them to wait for them to respond, but it's good. So describe the color blue to somebody who's blind.
I think it has a kind of a calm vibe to me. So if you're just kind of chilling out and low stress and
Yes.
just kind of sitting back, that's what blue feels like to me.
I think I agree with that. I agree with that. That's the color of our company, and I'm just adding a blue sky as we speak to you. So yeah, totally.
Right.
So what random stranger or somebody you met in your life, it was unplanned or they might be part of your life, had the biggest impact on your life, unplanned?
So I'd say it's not something I met, but something I saw on TV. Okay, so going back to the hockey thing, when the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup in 2018, so the round before the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, they were playing against Tampa Bay Lightning, and it was games. So it's the best. So I don't know if you know anything about hockey. So it's a best of 7 series. So you have to win 4 out of 7 games to progress to the next round. And it was game 6, and so the Caps had lost 3 games already. So it was a must-win game. And I was just watching the pregame stuff on TV, and there's a guy called Jay Beagle, who was kind of one of the, not one of the star players, but one of the kind of the role players. They call him a 4th line grinder kind of guy. And the guy, the TV interviewer was just like, so, hey, how do you feel tonight's going to go? What are you expecting? All those kinds of, normal kind of cliche questions you would ask an athlete before the game. And he said, and he just was like the calmest person I've ever seen in that kind of situation. He said, we all know what we have to do. We all know our roles. If we do that, then we're going to win. I mean, and you could tell he had no question in his mind at all that if he did what he was supposed to do and his teammates did what they were supposed to do, then the automatic outcome of that was that they would win the game. And that just really struck me because you could tell that he was, it was just no question in his mind that that was what was going to happen. And I feel like, that really applies to what we do professionally, just get all the ego and drama out of the way. And if everybody understands what they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis and everybody actually does that, then there shouldn't be any big problems. There shouldn't be any friction, whether you whether you win the proposal or not, who knows, right? Because the other companies out there doing that same thing. But I feel like if you do that consistently, you're going to win way more than you lose. So that really kind of struck me and has stuck with me ever since.
I think what a powerful. I think you are right. I think we learn a lot from strangers or people who unexpectedly tell us or teach us life lessons. And looks like this is something that you picked up. That's great, Neil. I think thank you for sharing that. Neil, what's the naughtiest thing you have done in school?
Man, I mean, there was a lot, probably a little too much alcohol when I was in university on a few occasions. Let's just leave it at that, you know. I think that's a pretty common experience, but yeah.
No, that's it. That's it. That's good. What's something that you have that is of sentimental value to you? Any object?
I mean, I have to say, I don't think I'm much of a material object kind of person. I like looking at, you know, photos on my phone of the family as, you know, over time and, you know, as they've been growing up. So I like that kind of thing more than, you know, so I'm not really a big object kind of guy.
Any person or any other stuff that you have which is of sentimental value?
Any person, you said?
Uh-huh.
I mean, just, no, I mean, just, you know, family, love the family. So
That's
yeah.
it. I know that was a dumb question to ask you, but having you told me a few times already, but it's good. That's good. Thank you. So if you're allowed to use just one word, Neil, one word for the rest of your life, which word would you choose to say?
It'd be nice to say happy a lot, right? If everybody was happy, I think that would be great.
And with that,
I've been trying to, you know, some words to avoid, like, you know, I really try to avoid saying the word but. That really rubs me the wrong way. I try and hear a lot of people say, you know, use the word honestly a lot. I try and stay away from that as well, because those two things just kind of, you know, the flares up when people are using those words a lot. But yeah, just be like nice to be happy all the time.
I think you nailed it. I think certain words that we use could be straightforward. You're right. A but or a try. I'll try, which is like I'm going to do or not, right? Honestly, I mean, like, so what do you mean? Which means whatever you said before is not true. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's good.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Neil. So if you could meet anyone from history, who would you meet and why?
Read some it would be kind of interesting / scary to meet Genghis Khan, I think.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, just obviously kind of an amazing leader. You know, biggest land empire in human history. Probably a pretty magnetic personality. I don't know that you'd survive the meeting or not. You know?
Yeah, you're right. I think the different people perceive him differently, but at the end of the day, for you to come from nowhere or nothing, literally, you know, and then to go and conquer pretty much half of the world is an unbelievable story. That too in like, when is it? 13th century, 11th century, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good one, Neil. Neil, what's your favorite food? What is it you'll happily eat every single day?
I like it's pretty basic, but I could eat rice and beans every day. Yeah, just black beans and rice. I like Mexican food, but that's I don't eat meat, so yeah, I kind of leaning into the other things, all the vegetables and beans and stuff you can get around it.
Wow, I think that's good. And do you like cooking? If what's your signature dish?
I don't know if I have a signature dish. I do the cooking. I think that's more because nobody else wants to, and because I'm a good cook, you know. So it's like, so the kids are like, oh, can we get pizza instead, you know? So I cook whatever's in the house. I'm not claiming to be any kind of an expert chef, though.
Right. I think that's it. That's it. I think with kids around, you know, you have to strike a balance in what you will be happy to eat and what the family as a whole you can have it as well. That's good. So Is there any favorite place that you have visited that you always go back?
I mean, it's funny. No, I mean, we haven't really gone anywhere in the last few years. So, I mean, we do. My my kids and my wife are going back to Disney World in a month or so for a big dance convention and competition, and we went several times when the kids were younger. That was a lot of fun. So it'd be nice to get back there. Yeah, that was fun.
That's good. So I think if things settle down, I mean, like, is there any place you would like to travel?
Well, I'd like to get back to my hometown. We haven't done that in a long time. And it was, when the kids were little, it's hard to wrangle them up and get them on a plane and, 8-hour plane ride and then a 5-hour drive from London back into Wales. So we haven't done that for a long time. So that would be, pretty close to the top of the list of something we'd like to do in the next, year or so, hopefully.
That's good. Yes. So if you are watching a movie and if you want to make your life story as a movie, what do you think should be the title of the movie, and who do you think should play a lead role of you and your wife?
Oh, wow. It's funny. My wife's been watching the Johnny Depp trial on TV, so I was going to say maybe Johnny. I could be Johnny. Johnny Depp could be me, maybe. That's come to mind. I don't know who she would want to play her, though. That's a good question. I'll have to give that some thought. Yeah.
Johnny Depp sounds good, especially what's happening now. I think he's got a lot of love and support. I'm not sure about US, but in the UK, he's especially.
The trial's happening right here in Fairfax.
Right, is it Fairfax?
From it's like 4 miles from our house, the Fairfax County courthouse, where it's happening. It's funny because some of my daughter's friends, teenagers, right? They all went outside the courthouse a few weeks ago, and they were cheering Johnny Depp when he came out, and they were booing Amber Heard when she left. So I'm not sure, if that's good, bad, or what, but that's kind of been happening in our backyard for the last month or so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think I think there is a close call here. I don't know why, but the same thing happens here in the media as well for some reason. But that's good. Thank you for sharing, and that ends our random rapid fire question round. So let's talk about the people in your life, Neil. Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and also in your professional career?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say professionally, I've had a couple of really good bosses over the last, 10 or so years. There was a guy called Jim Hiles when I was at a company called Morgan Franklin. I was there for about 3 years. He was my manager. He was just like a really good manager and kind of an interesting Renaissance kind of dude as well. He would go, fishing in the Chesapeake Bay. He renovated houses. I know he was like trying to put together, renovate and run a cafe out on the Eastern Shore as well. He was doing like, master's dissertation. So I don't know how he did all these things, and he's just a really good guy. So he was interesting and a good manager. And, just kind of gave me the space to just kind of, be the best I could be at work. So I like working with him. And a guy right now, my current boss, a guy called Al Casper, who I kind of met for the first time about 2 years ago. He just, it's like I go back to, just try and get around and work with good people, and it just makes everything else work much better. So yeah, he's just a good dude, fun times, knows what he's doing, those kinds of things. So, that's professionally, those are the two guys who kind of stand out, I'd say. And personally, my wife Renee, love her, and we've been together for a long time, and ups and downs, right? She's a great wife, great mom to my kids. So I'd say that's definitely the person in my personal life.
Nice. So I know you also mentioned that you had the 3 dogs, Neil. If I ask the reference from your 3 dogs, talk us about Neil. What do you think they will say about you?
Well, they like it because I'm usually the one who walks them, right? So, and at least 2 out of the 3 usually sleeping on the floor in my home office during the day. So
Right.
they definitely like the whole remote work experience. I'm kind of getting a little stir crazy, but yeah, they like to assist on my team's calls when they're probably not what you want happening. But it's kind of amusing when my dogs will start barking at somebody else's dogs that are on the other end of the team's call. And so they have their own meeting going on while we're trying to hear each other. So that's kind of
fun. What's the name of the dogs, Neil?
So Murphy, Flynn, and Charlie.
Murphy, Flynn, Charlie. Any reasons why the names?
No, I mean, they're all rescue dogs.
Oh.
So we're big on, big on that. We've had other rescue dogs in the past too. And so Murphy, that's the name they had given him at the local shelter, and it was St. Patrick's Day, so that's why they called him Murphy when they brought him in. So, but it seemed to suit him, so we stuck with that. And then Flynn and Charlie, we got them when they were both puppies from different rescue organizations, and Flynn was my daughter named him, and Charlie, we all became kind of that's what he looks like. He looks like a Charlie. So.
That's so cute. That's so cute. I think that's a beautiful family, boy, girl, 3 dogs. That's great. Thank you, Neil. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
What's one personal trait you like the most about yourself?
So I think what's helped me over the years is I'm pretty even. You don't get too over the top and don't get too down. I think that's a helpful trait, especially in the business that we're in. And I'd say, professionally, and I talked about this a lot with folks over the last couple of years, especially, is just, taking ownership for your role and your responsibilities and not relying on other people to have to, spoon feed you or tell you what you're supposed to be doing all the time. And when you sign up to perform this role on this project, and it comes with certain expectations, and you just got to own that. And if everybody did that, and I kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier, if everybody did that, then things would go real smooth. So I'd say those are the 2 things, kind of keeping an even keel and taking ownership.
That's nice. Thank you, Neil. I think we all need to have that balance. I think that's it, fulfillment, balance, all these words. It's very hard to achieve, but it's easy to talk, work-life balance and other things. But I'm glad that even the way you speak, there is always a balance in the way you speak as well. I'm sure listeners might have guessed it already. When they listen in, they're like, okay, the tone is like a straight line.
Okay.
That's good, Neil. Thank you.
It's funny because people, my accent is kind of screwed up now after, living over here for a couple of decades. And I get a lot of people asking me if I'm from, the latest thing is, are you from Brooklyn? So that's interesting to me when I get that kind of thing. It used to be more, hey, are you from Massachusetts? I got that a lot. But yeah, it's funny. I don't know.
Nice. I think that's good. I mean, every country, you assume that you speak English should be same, but every country have their own local swings, and they, could be UK or it could be US, Australia, Canada, or any other Commonwealth countries that you're talking about. But that's interesting. I think, it looks like Brooklyn or Massachusetts, or in my case, they call me Bracknell. Are you from Bracknell in Berkshire? Because you sound like a Berkshire. And I'm like, that is yeah, that's good. Thank you. Thank you, Neil. Neil, I think you've been in the industry for 20 odd years, Neil. What's that one piece of advice you would like to give to the bid and proposal teams?
I think it's I really like it, and the thing that I like about it the most is that you tend to end up working with the smartest people in the organizations that you're in, because there's a lot of expertise that has to come together, legal, pricing, technical, operational folks, the BD folks, so I'd say if you want to get to work with the smartest people in your organization and work on really critical projects for the growth and survival of the organization that you're in, I'd say get into, start looking into BD, and there's lots of different roles in there that, you might fit into. But yeah, I definitely encourage people to get into it. I love it. And people ask me a lot, especially operational folks, why would you do that for a living? Because it is high stress. And those are the kind of things that I give them as an answer, get to work on a cool project and it lasts, few months, maybe longer than that, maybe shorter than that. And then you get to go do something different, right? With a different set of smart people and something that's really important. So.
Yeah, that's well said. I think that's a great advice, Neil. Neil, what question or anything that you would like to ask me, or you would like to I didn't ask you, so that before we close the episode, you have that one question named.
So why did you end up in this business, Basket? You asked me, so how did you end up here doing this for a living?
The proposal career.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, as you rightly said, my I started in a financial institution, Neil, and then halfway through we talked about immigration thing, right? I came to UK as a student, and halfway through I was transferred to Spain from London. At that point, I still had an offer for a graduate role at Serco, the government contracting company. I took up that role without knowing what tenders is about. At that point, eBay was just coming out in 2004-ish. So when they asked me about tenders, I was like, yeah, I know bidding. I just bid, and I know, like at that point, a phone or something in eBay. Yeah, I know bidding. I used to do the bidding. And they just said, no, this is government contracting. So like you said, I just joined Serco from a financial institution, and then I started pricing. That was my thing. And then from then on, we just gradually pick up different roles, different sectors, and then we just do what it takes. Yeah, it wasn't something that I chose, but it just happened, and gradually, you now do more and more. And now it's podcasts, webinars, trainings, consulting. Everything has fallen from there. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. I think, is it your experience that more people are kind of actually getting into this line of work on purpose now than it used to be? I think
the population is very low. I think, still we might be scratching the surface here. Yes, there should be a lot of awareness that goes through. But no, I was talking to a few colleagues in California recently, right? There are a lot of tech companies who are based in California. But if you look at the APMP Californian chapter, you have like 500 people there, right? So, they are doing the best to reach out. As an industry, I think it's all bucketed in different, we might be bucketed as sales teams, or we might be bucketed as marketing teams, or, deal teams, pitch teams. So I think it's coming out as an industry more and more prevalent now. We are seeing more and more people getting into certification programs and stuff. But I think it's a journey in itself. Will it be university people coming out and taking proposal as a career? I mean, I think I doubt it. I think we can do our best on this, but yeah, I think for example, recently I spoke in a public policy, in a university, and then people talk public policy, healthcare policies, energy policies and stuff, right? As you do. But behind every policy is a procurement, right? And that's the thing, people don't connect it. I think it just somehow get muddled between contract management, which is legal. Then you have the accountancy, which is finance. But on this one is somewhere in between, and policies come there. So again, it will evolve as we speak. but we just need to just keep moving. At some point very soon, before our lifetime, I'm sure it will become a graduate degree and people will do it. Again, MBA, for example, right? There are so many MBAs who just go on and do entrepreneurs. The very first thing they do, they need to write a business proposal to win a job, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's a cycle, Neil. I'm sure we'll get there, but I think it might take slightly longer than we anticipate. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Neil. Is there any part of your life or career, or is there anything else you would like to share, Neil, before we close the episode?
No, just thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Bhaskar, and thanks for your time. And it was an enjoyable hour, so thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Wish you, your family, and everybody around you all the good health and happiness. Continue to stay healthy, stay happy, continue to get all the blessings, and hope to see you when you're here in this part of the world, or maybe I'll come over there. Look after yourself and stay sane. Take care, Neil.
Thank you very much, Bhaskar. Have a wonderful day.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit bachuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.